Welcome back to what is a mundane office in London, England. We're not on the trips of conferencing 24/7. You know, this it's not something that's entirely sustainable at this point. But what I did want to do is, on the back of my trip to METAMS, I do want to go through a review of an in-depth review of my thoughts, team's thoughts about what the conference was like, what the space is like at the moment based off of that conference, and anything else I want to add. And yeah, really just have a conversation about what I learned, what I think is going on, and everything that I just said anyway. So METAMS 2022 in Amsterdam, first of its kind, was in essence a metaverse conference. I wouldn't say it was entirely a Web3 conference, but it did focus around the metaverse space, specifically, you know, experiences, or wanting to be about experiences is kind of how it was sold rather than what it actually was. What it actually was a combination of different things, and it had this real indie vibe to it. It was very, very much like a 21st century take on a conference, not like one of these existing tech conferences that someone might go to and is, you know, it's kind of just stalls, Google, Apple, blah, blah, blah. Apple doesn't do it, but Google, Netflix, blah, 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 Tesla, whoever else, L'Oreal, whoever it might be. Here, it was kind of like, it felt like they were cherry picked from the Netherlands, because it was very much kind of in its roots. The people that put it on, the guys at the Brandfather that obviously helped put on METAMS, are from Amsterdam. One of them is from Amsterdam themselves. You know, shout out to you guys, did an amazing job. But when I really dived into it, and you know, a lot of what I said in the vlog was kind of what I felt. I felt that there wasn't enough breaking down problems, really having thought leadership in the space. Rather, it was, I felt like I could have been up there giving a conversation, or having a conversation with some of the other panelists about what it is we need to do in the space, what it is being done in the space, and how we can move forward, or really move forward in what we want to do. Metaverse is not the end game. You know, XR, I feel, is more the end game. What I mean by XR is kind of mixed reality, AR, VR, and real life. Kind of think Google Glasses, but on steroids. Iron Man's like HUD display, HUD display. If we're going to break down what it was, I think you can break it into several different things. So, importance of building communities. I've got it all here on my screen. So I'm going to read this, and we're going to have a conversation about it. Importance of building communities. Communities are the foundation of Web3 and should not be overlooked. I think that's one of the key points of the space. Everyone knows that, and if you don't know it, now you know. Communities represent opportunity for increased collaborations between projects and brands. You know, you can be an individual or you can be a project, and you have a better ability to connect with your community. You have a better ability to really understand your community. You have a bigger chance of actually doing more in the space with a community, because you have direct access to them. You don't have to, you know, retargeted ads and things like this. They've come to you specifically for, you know, what they believe in what this project is. A lot of the time, sometimes it's hype, but not always. We are still in the early stages of building out Web3, and we should be conscious not to make the same mistakes as Web2. And what I mean by that is, we shouldn't go monetize everything. We shouldn't look at the space and try and rip its soul out. We should try and curate this beauty. We should take the learnings of what we've learned in Web2 and everything that we don't want Web3 to be, and try and implement those safeguards, so that we don't end up in a situation where we're in a Web2 world again, or Web2-esque world, where everyone is fighting for data, and the consumers of the end product are actually the product. Previously, communities may have found it difficult to make change due to an inability to form capital quickly, but capital formation now from communities is incredibly simple through NFTs and DAOs, and I think that point should have come before the last point. We live in a world now where you can, in a matter of days, pull together 100 million between random strangers. Like, it's insane capital formation, to be perfectly honest. 100 million is quite a way off, maybe 50 million. Even in a down market, you could still find a way to do that. And I think there's something to be said about that. that a lot of people have caught onto yet is that consumers or your communities end up becoming an extension of your brand because they have a financial investment in it. You could start doing bigger things with your communities and with your brands because you now have financial backing from your communities. How amazing is that? The very people who want to buy your product also want to get into business with you, and you can do that in quite a safe way. Although I feel like the technology does need to evolve a bit before we get to that type of space. Play to earn was a big part of the conference. There was a lot of projects there that were play to earn, wanting to be play to earn, are trying to become play to earn, whether they're making games. I am not completely sold on every Tom, Dick and Harry making games, to be perfectly honest with you. It's like play to move or move to earn, like those type of concepts I am not 100% sure are valuable unless someone like Apple did it, for example. I think that's because they're a more sustainable entity and they'd be able to do more with that, or Fitbit, for example. It's an interesting concept, but I feel like it only works in like real games like GTA, Skyrim, Red Dead Redemption, games like that, where there is a popularity to them, but also is a complexity to them and there's strategy to them. You know, games like Farmville are really great, but are we past that age? I think the world will go through that again, and you know, the play to earn games are the Web 2 version of what Farmville was. But I think Sims is like purpose built for it. We were playing play to earn games way before, we were in metaverses way before we even like came up with the word. Or started using the word colloquially. You gotta watch the space closely. You know, games like Cryptoman are still new, and it's gonna be curious to see how they move forward. As I mentioned, GTA and Sims are kind of like your purpose-built ones. The focus is on gameplay, experience, rewards, loyalty, and engagement. Those are your go-tos. Those are what is really gonna enhance someone's life when playing a game. And the recommendation that I think you've gotta look at is how can we build AR games and make them play to earn. I think that would be a really cool concept to look into. World of NFTs. The power is with the storytellers. The NFT needs a meaning and a purpose behind it, and then maybe longer term utility. You know, if you want to buy art, buy art. If you want to buy a ticket, buy a ticket. I think the ticketing aspect really going to come into play a lot more. It's not just going to be proof of attendance, but they're still in their infancy and will morph and take on different forms. The real life utilities will definitely become a necessity and a prerequisite. How likely that is, I think we're still looking at a couple years before that really comes into effect. Like I said, unless you just want to own a digital art piece, it's up to you. Projects are similar to crowd funds, right? People can raise significant portions of cash in a short period of time and adding value to the communities, as we've already mentioned. Brands should treat LFTs as loyalty concepts, you know, loyalty schemes. Why? Because I just think that they're kind of purpose built for that, right? You can do a lot of cool stuff with it, but at the end of the day, you are, as a brand, as a consumer of a brand, ultimately you keep buying that brand because you're loyal to that brand. I feel that NFTs and loyalty are intrinsically intertwined, because if a brand that I really enjoyed purchasing, maybe it's like these pair of sunglasses, this shirt, whether it's mics or equipment, I continuously go back to the same brands. And if I was to be able to receive NFTs based on the amount of products I was buying, but then also have the ability to sell on that loyalty card, that loyalty NFT that's taking data from the outside and plugging it in, or a DNFT. I think that that's really interesting, because if I ever move away from that brand or I stop buying it, I can sell that on and start making an income off of it, about all the time that I've invested into it. And obviously the initial brand receives an income through royalties. Interesting concept, something to look at. Maybe some people are working on it. Another thing I noticed is that from the people that I was talking to there were a lot of big brands that are piling into NFTs, whether it's sports teams and things like that. And kind of the word on the street is that they don't really believe in them. You know, they're kind of doing it because there's a lot of hype around it, but they don't actually truly believe in what the technology is. It's kind of, they've got to do it to fill the space and see what happens. I mean, if you've got expendable cash, of course, try it, but not everyone has that. Metaverse for good, working with charities and NGOs. There's a lot of that in this space, and I think that blockchain has the ability to do that. Metaverses, not too sure. NFTs to an extent. A lot of the charity projects are dedicated to solely doing good rather than a brand collaborating with a charity. I'm not wholly sold on this whole charity idea where you invest in a project but you don't actually end up owning whatever it is that they're giving you. I'd like to observe the space a little longer to understand, is this a business model that acts as a charity, or is it for profit? And is it designated as a charity? Again, capital formation, lightning fast through NFTs, but you run the risk of scams. And so there's an increased need for transparency, although you do get that with blockchain. And I'm not entirely sold on it. Some great ideas, some great projects. There's a really moving conversation that a gentleman had where he was talking about the rainforests, and showing how his project actually entices you to look after the space. Open metaverse. Interoperability is nowhere near where we think it could be. It's not Ready Player One yet. Ready Player One even isn't an open metaverse. It's not like you could port GTA and Sims together. I think genuinely that will come from IBM. That will come from that Activision acquisition. That is a tongue twister and a half. It will come from there because they are one of the premium gaming companies now, and they have some incredible titles behind them. I think to be able to walk through a world where you go from like Call of Duty into Sims into Teams is just mind-blowing. And I feel that is a real world that we could end up living in the future in about 15 to 20 years time. This isn't a future that we're gonna come into now. And again, XR, VR. XR is more the play, less than VR. The future is XR. It's always been XR. It's always been Google Glasses, but it got shelved early on. As I mentioned before, the importance of consumers financially investing in their brands is a voice that we need to listen to, and potentially something that consumers have always wanted for decades, but we've never been able to give them. I love that. And I really, really think that that's a play a lot more people will make rather than just profiteering off their communities. In short, what did I think? I think that we could have done more. I think there's a lot of people there that were selling and really wanted to sell and obviously showcase the products that they've done. Amazing. There were some genuine conversations that I had with some individuals who were willing to actually just humor me and have a normal conversation about the things that they were doing rather than try and sell me a product or sell me a space or whatever it might be. There was a lot of agencies there, a huge amount. And overall it was a good vibe, but ultimately I didn't get what I wanted in total out of it. And I feel that is something that was quite annoying. Maybe it's because it's due to the people that were talking and the people that were there, or just maybe the type of people that come to conferences. Ultimately, do I think that the conferences are sold as this amazing, or METAMS was sold as this amazing, incredible, monumental conference. But sometimes it doesn't add up to that. Was it good at what it did? Yes. Did it go over and above, in my opinion? No. I felt that ultimately I didn't get to understand a lot of the negatives in the space and a lot of the problems in the space. In Web3, I ended up finding more about people blowing hot air up each other's asses in a way and selling, which ultimately is what I'll probably end up doing at some point in my life. And so I'm not shitting on it. I'm just trying to have a genuine conversation about how I feel. It was good. I learned a lot. I also learned a lot about people and about other individuals and other companies and other agencies in this space, and also what bigger brands are doing. And sometimes it's nice just to sit down with someone and not be sold anything and just have a conversation about the problems, which hopefully I will end up doing at some point in the future. Hopefully we get to go to some more conferences because I can see you like that type of content. I enjoyed it, and hopefully it was valuetainment, as we like to go for in the space. But as always, it's been a pleasure, and I'll check in with you guys soon. Ciao.